I never expected first contact to happen in the cafeteria of a failing orbital research station, over a cup of recycled coffee that tasted faintly of copper and regret. But that's where Queen Aurelian of the Lithari Dominion chose to reveal herself, not with an invasion fleet or a beam of light from the heavens, but by sitting across from me and asking the most terrifying question I've ever heard. Do you love my daughter? At the time, I didn't even know she had a daughter. I only knew Lyra, the quiet xenolinguist assigned to my team, whose eyes shifted color depending on her mood, and whose laughter felt like gravity rearranging itself around my chest. To me, she was brilliant, awkward, and impossibly kind. To the rest of the universe, she was apparently an interstellar princess. The station's lights dimmed as the Queen's true form shimmered into focus. Her humanoid disguise dissolved, revealing a being of luminous fractal geometry, crowned with rings of living starlight. The air vibrated with restrained power. Every alarm on the station began screaming at once, then abruptly shut off, as if reality itself had been politely told to be quiet. I swallowed hard. I care about Lyra, I said, choosing my words carefully. More than I've ever cared about anyone. Queen Aurelian studied me with eyes that contained entire nebulae. That was not my question, human. To understand how I ended up there, you need to know how Lyra and I met. She arrived 6 months earlier, assigned to translate an alien signal discovered beyond the Kuiper Belt. Everyone assumed the message was a warning or a threat. Lyra said it was a lullaby. She worked late nights with me, correcting my math, teasing me about my obsession with old science fiction films. She asked strange questions about human love, about why we tell stories, about what we're afraid of when we're alone. Sometimes she would stare out the viewport at Earth, her eyes glowing faintly violet, and whisper, "I'm not sure where I belong anymore." I thought it was poetic homesickness. I didn't realize it was a confession. The truth came out the night she was injured. A containment failure exposed us to hard radiation. I dragged her to the med bay, screaming for help. The doctors panicked when her blood crystallized into iridescent light instead of clotting. Lyra took my hand and said, very calmly, "Please don't be afraid." That was the night the Lithari arrived. They didn't attack. They paused the station, freezing time around us like a painting. Queen Aurelian stepped through a tear in space, her presence bending the walls inward. She took one look at Lyra, my Lyra, and something ancient and maternal softened in her cosmic expression. "My daughter," she said, and the word echoed like a supernova. In the hours that followed, outside of time, inside a bubble of alien physics, the Queen explained everything. The Lithari were an ancient species, long past physical bodies, ruling a vast coalition of worlds. Lyra was next in line for the throne, sent away to learn empathy among lesser civilizations. Humans, apparently, were a fascinating case study in emotional contradiction. But she stayed, the Queen said, her voice tinged with something like disappointment. She delayed her ascension. "For you." Lyra looked ashamed. "I wanted to choose my own life." "And now," the Queen said, turning back to me, "that choice depends on you." That's when she asked the question again. "Do you love my daughter?" I wanted to say yes immediately, but I realized this wasn't a test of words. It was a test of consequence. What happens if I say yes? I asked. The Queen's rings dimmed. "Then she may remain with you, temporarily. Age, illness, and death will claim you, as they do all humans. She will outlive your species, your sun, your galaxy. She will grieve longer than you have existed. And if I say no, then she returns with me. She becomes queen. She forgets this place. She forgets you." Lyra was crying now, her tears floating like tiny stars. "I don't want to forget," she whispered. I realized then that love wasn't about how strongly I felt. It was about whether I was willing to let her go. I took a deep breath. "I love her," I said, "which is why I won't trap her in my lifetime." The Queen tilted her head. "Explain." "She deserves more than a borrowed happiness," I said, my voice breaking. "If staying with me means centuries of pain later, then I won't ask that of her. I want her to choose freely, even if that choice isn't me." Silence fell. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Then Queen Aurelian did something I didn't expect. She laughed. It was a sound like galaxies colliding gently. "You understand love better than most rulers I have known," she said. "That is why my daughter chose you." She turned to Lyra. "You may stay, or you may return. But know this, your people will be safer for having known him." Time restarted. The alarm stopped. The Queen vanished. Lyra stayed. Not forever. We both knew that. We had 7 years together. 7 beautiful, painful, ordinary years. We watched Earth sunsets. We argued about music. We loved fiercely, knowing every moment mattered. When the time came, she left peacefully, kissing my forehead and promising, "I will remember you longer than stars remember light." Now, sometimes I look up at the night sky and feel a warmth pass over me, like a mother's gaze checking in from afar. And I smile, knowing that when an alien queen asked if I loved her daughter, my answer shaped the fate of more than just us. And the years after Lyra returned to the stars, life continued in the quiet, stubborn way it always does for humans. The station was eventually decommissioned, the research archived, the discovery classified and buried under layers of bureaucracy and disbelief. To the rest of the world, Lyra had simply been another scientist who left without warning. To me, she was the echo that never faded. I grew older. My hands trembled more when I held a cup. My reflection slowly became someone I didn't recognize. Yet on certain nights, when the sky was clear and the stars felt unusually close, the air around me would shimmer, just for a moment. In those moments, I felt seen, protected, loved. On my final night, lying beneath a window that framed the cosmos, the room filled with a gentle, familiar warmth. Space itself seemed to bend inward, not violently, but tenderly. I knew before I saw her. Queen Aurelian appeared once more, her radiant form softer now, her vast power restrained like a whisper instead of a storm. "You lived well," she said. "I loved well," I replied. Her gaze turned toward the stars. "My daughter rules wisely. She carries your stories into the council chambers of 1,000 worlds. Because of you, humanity was spared when your species stood on the brink of its own destruction." I smiled weakly. Then it was worth it. As my breath grew shallow, another presence filled the room, gentler, warmer, achingly familiar. Lyra knelt beside me, her eyes glowing the same violet they always had when she was overwhelmed with emotion. "I kept my promise," she whispered. I remembered. I closed my eyes, no longer afraid. Far above Earth, a new star ignited, one the astronomers would later struggle to explain. They would call it an anomaly, a miracle, an error in their instruments. But the Lithari knew the truth. It was a farewell. And somewhere beyond time and death, an alien queen watched her daughter love without regret, knowing that the smallest human heart had changed the fate of the universe forever.